staff, drivers, but especially you fans. When I look around this 4/10 of a mile oval and I look at how packed the grandstands are, I see all the tailgate parting on the back straightaway through 3 and 4. I see people in folding chairs in turns 1 and 2. This is what short track racing is all about, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here with you to shine a spotlight on a Southern Modified Tour that has some new life into it, that was pushed through it in 2020. And as we mentioned earlier in qualifying, the plan was to get this series back up and running in 2020. But everybody in motorsports had to endure some type of adversity with all that was going on in the world, and the Smart Modified Tour was no exception. With that, this organization, led up by Chris Williams, decided to regroup, get their efforts back together, and go full speed ahead in 2021. We had a great opening round at Caraway about a month ago. That was on Speed51.tv as well. And then just 2 weeks ago, we were at Florence Motor Speedway in South Carolina, where tire strategy played a huge role in who went to victory lane. We've had 2 different winners already this season, and neither of them are in the field today. There are storylines aplenty, and just a short while ago, we saw Chuck Hosfeld set the fast time in qualifying, and he ended up winning the Precision Built Spindle Pole Award. However, the entire top 10 had to redraw, and as you can see, the field is now coming into formation on the main straightaway, getting set for today's Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree. And for those of you who may be watching on Speed51.tv, I was talking about the racetrack earlier, and I just want to give a quick shout-out to our friends over at Fox Sports, as they did an amazing piece on the general manager of this facility, Kathy Rice. That was part of Fox Sports Women in Wheels segment. This is going to be Kathy Rice's last year as GM of this racetrack, and all you have to do is look around at all the hard work that went into putting on shows like what we have here today. It is absolutely amazing, and a huge thanks goes out to her, as well as all the management team here at the track, as well as Pocono Raceway, who's partnered up with this incredible facility and allows us the chance to be here today. Now, if you are catching us on Speed51.tv, or if you're here today, I want to remind all of you that later on this afternoon, there's a big race going on at Hickory Motor Speedway. It's the Easter Bunny 150. That race is going to be available on pay-per-view on the platform at 5:15 p.m. So if you don't necessarily feel like your racing need for this Easter weekend has been fulfilled, you have a chance to head on home and watch some more racing action a little bit later on this afternoon from Hickory Motor Speedway. Our buddy Alan Dietz has you covered from down over there in Hickory. As you can see, the field of 22 cars strong has assembled up on the main straightaway, and they are getting set to go for 99 laps. There are some very familiar names in this field, some of which you are going to recognize here from their performances at some of the big league stock car stages. We also have some of the biggest racing names in modifieds in this quadrant of the country in this field as well, and they're all vying to be the 3rd different winner on the season, and they have come into formation on the main straightaway. Our chief starter, J.B. Cole, is going to be handling the silks for us this afternoon. Chris Honeycutt is going to be working the Citrus Safe Choose Cone. That will be very important, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on once we do, in fact, approach our first restart of the afternoon. There's also a single stage break in these events. It's going to come today at lap 30. That is presented by our friends and huge supporter of the Smart Modified Tour, Jerry Hunt Supercenter. The top 3 at the end of lap 30 are going to get some additional cash in the wallet. $300 to the driver who is leading, $200 to the second place runner, and $100 to our third place driver at the end of lap 30, our one and only Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break. A couple of quick safety checks going on the main straightaway. This gives us a chance to also advise the fact that there is an interesting tire rule that we're going to try to keep you all up to speed on. When the drivers rolled in today, they had the ability to purchase 5 tires, 4 of which were on the car when they rolled out earlier to set their laps. That means they only have 1 change tire at their disposal. There was only 1 sticker tire in the pit lane for these competitors. The majority of the field has elected to go with a right rear. However, that does not mean that is the only tires they can put on or off the car throughout this race. You will see some very interesting moves by some of these drivers, perhaps depending on the timing of yellows, where they may elect to swap the left side tires, maybe even move around some of the rear tires. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's a huge cost-saving measure for these teams, and the question becomes, when do you want to come down and put on that fresh right rear, or if somebody elected to buy a different type of sticker tire? When does that happen, and can you cleanly make your way back to the front? So the tire strategy is going to be something we are going to keep our eyes on. As we mentioned, the one-stage break at lap 30, then the remainder of the event is going to run all the way to its conclusion. We do have the Citrus Safe Choose Cone that we are going to be keeping an eye on as well to see how these cars are going to line up and start and restart. We are getting set to fire these engines in just about 1 minute's time. Now, we could not do this without all of our amazing sponsors, and with that, of course, this is the Smart Modified Series, but our race sponsor throughout the year is that of Smart Chevrolet. Now, Smart Chevrolet and Body Shop has been a North Carolina dealer providing high-quality new and used vehicles since 1986. You can check out their showroom in Madison, North Carolina, or check them out on the web at smartchevrolet.com. All right, race fans, I'm going to pose the question to you once more. Are you guys ready to get this show rolling for 99 laps at a 600 horsepower ground pounders here at South Boston? We got an amazing crowd. I'm going to steal something that Ken Childs did with you earlier. I want to turn it over to you fans. I will count down from 3 on back, and I want you all to give the command to start our engines. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. 600 horsepower machines are about ready to duke it out on the tight confines of this 4/10 of a mile oval here in South Boston, Virginia. Truly, America's hometown track. Are about to see who is going to be the best of these beasts on what may be one of the toughest tests these drivers face in their 11 late race slate in 2021. We mentioned earlier that Chuck Hosfeld ended up winning the quick time, or setting the quick time for the Precision Built Spindle Pole Award earlier. However, with the redraw, we've got some new names now jumbled up all throughout the field. So here's a look at how they're going to line up for today's 99-lap event at South Boston Speedway. By virtue of the redraw, the driver starting on the pole, NASCAR Cup Series driver, former NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour champion, driving the TS Haulers number 6, is going to be Ryan Preece on pole position. And to the outside, out of Walnut Cove, North Carolina, is going to be car number 4 of Jason Myers. J.R. Bertuccio was the fastest throughout most of the qualifying session earlier, ended up second quickest in the running order, but he will start third by virtue of the redraw. And outside is going to be James Savali, who did not get rolling for the green flag at Florence 2 weeks ago. He'll be looking for redemption on the outside of row number 2 in 4th. Burt Myers, one of the drivers who will perhaps inherit the point lead when all said and done. He's second in championship points, still looking to find victory lane for the first time in Smart Modified Tour competition over the last couple of years. He's going to round out your top 5. And the quick time setter in Chuck Hosfeld in car 17 will line up outside of car 1. That is how row 3 looks when they come down for green. Car number 2 inside of row 4 is going to be that of Brandon Ward, driving for the Randy Renfro and Coulter Motorsports team. Outside is going to be the Shady Gray Racing number 15, two-time Smart winner in 2020, Brian Lofton in 8th. And rounding out your top 10, inside in the Cookout number 25, your 2000 Cup Series champion and NASCAR Hall of Famer Bobby Labonte. And outside out of Wesley Chapel, Florida, car number 55 and two-time Southern Modified Series champion Jeremy Gerstner in the 55. There are a couple of drivers who are in this field who were in this race 20 years ago. The last time a Smart Modified Tour event took place, Frank Fleming is one of them. He'll start 11th. Outside is going to be the number 48, a driver who also made the trip up from Florida, and John Keevman. Continuing on with the starting grid, you're going to have Daniel Prost inside of row number 6 in car 3. Outside, Daniel Yates in the 18. Tim Brown comes from back inside of row number 7. Outside is going to be that of Jimmy Wallace. While we move back to Dennis Holdren, Zach Brewer, first-time Smart Modified starter, and Chris Finacharo in the 8 car. We also have the 5 of Tom Buzzy, and dropping to the back of the field, the number 24 of John Smith, the Mayberry Bullet. And rounding out the field is going to be Brian Weber in the 76. here at the South Boston Speedway. You could not ask for better weather on a race day. Ambient air temperature 55 degrees. There is a little bit of a breeze that is blowing through, but if you're in the sunshine like this entire racetrack is, it is just an absolutely incredible day to be here at this facility, and we are just a couple laps away from letting these cars loose. Again, we're going to go 30 laps up to the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage break, and then we're going to run all the way to the checkered flag with NASCAR's own Ryan Preece. And although we tout the fact that Preece is, of course, a NASCAR veteran by this stage in his career, modified racing is where his passion lies, and that entire TS Haulers team has done so much, Preece included, to get that car race ready here today. We're thankful to have him in the field, and he is certainly going to be one to watch, especially after being able to pick up the pole by virtue of the redraw. Jason Myers, he won one of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stages this season, did it back at Caraway, but has not had the finishes that he would have hoped for, as the one-to-go signal is given by our very own J.B. Cole, and we are one lap away from going green. J.R. Bertuccio got to talk to one of his crew members earlier. All he said was, we're here to make some noise. And you can expect that out of row number 2. James Savali also chomping at the bit to get underway with this Smart Modified Series. That is how your front four looks. The pace truck is going to dive to pit road, and South Boston Speedway is about to come alive here on Speed 51 TV as we get set for the Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree. Here we go. Ryan Preece, Jason Myers lead us down for the start. And it's Preece with the jump from the pole. He's going to slot his way into the lead while Myers tries to work the outside as they come around a complete lap 1. Preece will cement the lead. Preece got into that top spot while Myers was trying to work the outside lane just prior to this event. There was a 100-lap late model race with a different type of tire compound and rubber, so these drivers are going to have to feel these cars out because they are in no way going to handle the same way they did in qualifying. Preece, the leader. Myers second, looking for the lead on the inside in 3, but he'll duck back in line. Savali had a look also as well. He runs in 3rd for the Hillbilly Motorsports team. While the Gershaw Motorsports entry, J.R. Bertuccio runs in 4th, and a quick time setter in Chuck Hosfeld, your top 5. They broke it away from the rest of the pack with Preece holding the edge off 4. Jason Myers trying to size up Preece a little bit there if possible. You see the different approaches to the inside and outside of these corners. We mentioned in the pre-race program, or at least in qualifying, the fact that the width of this racetrack is measured at 45 feet all the way around, but that's pretty much from the concrete retaining wall down to the yellow line to the inside wall on the front and back straightaway. Well, that doesn't account for all the apron that these drivers are using as they come out of turns number 2 and 4. While things start to spread out here amongst the front runners, we'll drop back a little bit and take a look at Bobby Labonte and Jeremy Gersner. These two started 9th and 10th respectively, and Labonte has just gotten by Gersner to take over what would be 8th with Brandon Ward next on the hit list. And Bobby is somebody who has talked openly so often about how much fun he is having driving these cars. It's been incredible to listen on all fronts. A couple weeks ago, it was on Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast. Just this past week, it was on his weekly duties at Fox Sports on NASCAR Race Hub. And not only is he enjoying it, but he is darn good at it. Came up one spot shy of a victory last time out at Florence, and now he looks to the bottom side of Ward to try to take over that 7th spot. And while they fight for that position, we've got a new 3rd place runner. J.R. Bertuccio has made the pass on James Savali to move up into P3 where he started, and lap traffic only 10 laps in already going to be a bit of a factor for your leaders. In qualifying, we did notice that Ryan Preece, despite having a lot of speed, that car started to loosen up a little bit on the exit of the corners. And as we start to log more laps, that could become a bit of a factor here, especially as he closes in on Brian Weber. Myers a little bit later on the binders there, getting into turn 1. Back to the power and a slip by the 4 cars. They came out of 2 that time. Brian Weber just up ahead on the bottom of the racetrack. We'll see where he goes. Preece is going to try to catch him. Weber gives way. And that momentary hiccup for the front 3 has allowed J.R. Bertuccio to close up from 3rd. Bertuccio now about 3 car lengths off the front runners as we are nearly halfway to the end of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage. Not missing anything throughout the pack for the most part. As Savali runs by himself in 4th. Then it's the quick time setter Chuck Hosfeld, Burt Myers, Bobby Labonte, and Jeremy Gerstner. While the leaders exit turn number 2. Myers trying to get a bead there on Priest as they got into 3, but could not make it happen. The fight for 4th on back starting to materialize as they come out of 4. Hosfeld, Myers, Labonte, and Gerstner all pretty much nose to tail right now as they come through 1 and 2. When we were at Florence Motor Speedway 2 weeks ago for round 2 of the Smart Modified Tour season, one of the interesting things that Bobby Labonte talked about was tire conservation. He admitted he hasn't been driving these cars long enough to truly know how smooth he can be or how aggressive he could be when it comes to trying to stretch tires for the duration of a 99-lap event like what we have here today. He said he thought he might have taken it a little bit too easy or waited too late for him to try to kind of kick up the heat a little bit. He ended up setting the quick time late in the race. He got the contingency award for that, but he's now working on the low side of Burt Myers off 4 to try to move up in a 6th spot. Labonte and Myers wheel to wheel with Jeremy Gerstner locked onto the backside of the Cookout number 25 as they go to 1. Labonte is clear. Gerstner going to try and follow. Hook in the bottom of the racetrack with the left side tires on that yellow line. And Labonte's not done. He now grabs the bottom side of the track with the left sides and is able to power his way past Chuck Hosfeld, and Gerstner's going to follow. So Labonte and Gerstner cutting the trail to the front after starting 9th and 10th respectively. They are now currently running in 5th and 6th position. We'll now move back up towards the front runners as you see J.R. Bertuccio starting to close in on Myers. $300 on the line for Ryan Priest if he can continue to run up towards the head of the pack once we complete lap 30 to close out this Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage. But he's got lap traffic double wide just in front of him. Priest now forced up outside of Brian Weber, while Jimmy Wallace is the next car in line. Wallace and his team also dealt with a heavy blow of bad luck at Florence 2 weeks back. That car had a motor expire on it during practice. He did not get a chance to go out and partake in what was the Smart Chevrolet 75-lapper 2 weeks ago. Now out here running the last car in the lead lap, hoping to stay there as we draw closer to the stage end. So it's Priest, Jason Myers, the 21 of J.R. Bertuccio. James Savali now under fire from Bobby Labonte and Jeremy Gerstner in the battle for 4th. Labonte's car starting to get a little bit tail happy off the corner. Saw the back end step out there as he got back to the power. Here comes Labonte though with a great exit off 2. Going to look inside of Savali. Gerstner right in the tire tracks trying to follow. This is the race for 4th as they come back up onto the main straightaway. Boy, Savali got really close to the outside retaining wall that time, and it's going to cost them 4th and 5th. Move Labonte and Gerstner up into the top 5. Meanwhile, here comes Ryan Priest to the line. Jimmy Wallace is going to give way, and Priest is en route to what may be a Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage win. We're going to look for the orange and white checkered flag, and here they come. Ryan Priest grabs the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage win over Jason Myers and J.R. Bertuccio, your top 3. While the rest of the field comes to the line, the caution flag will fly. That is the end of the one and only Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage, and Ryan Priest has pocketed $300 for his race team by virtue of his stage win. 3rd different driver to win the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage in 2021. Again, it was Priest, Myers, Jason Myers that is, and J.R. Bertuccio, your top 3, all going home with a little extra cash in the pocket courtesy of our friends at Jerry Hunt Supercenter. Now with the caution being out, you see Jimmy Wallace is going to be able to benefit from a free pass here as he pulls up to the tail end of the pack. With the caution waving, though, this does not mean that these drivers have to pit. There is no mandatory pit stop associated with this one and only stage break, so you might see some drivers come down and elect to pull some trickery with their tires. We're fortunate here in the announcing tower that we could see at least 14 of the pit stalls, while the other drivers, and it was the order was picked based on where you qualified, the other drivers are going to be over on the back straightaway, so that's not going to be our best vantage point, but our friends on the back straightaway who have the tailgate parking, they'll be able to report back to us what they see at least. But we'll see if anybody elects to come down as the green flag is waving. It's for pit row to be open, and here comes James Savali. He's the first taker after falling out of the top 5 late in the going in that stage. Savali's going to come down for service. And Brandon Ward appears to be joining him in the Randy Renfro and Coulter Motorsports number 2, as is John Keevman in the 48. So only a handful of drivers electing to take advantage of the pit service. We also see Zach Brewer on the pit lane as well. He came in one lap prior to the pits being open. But we'll see what Savali and company elect to do. He's got the first stall over on what is turn 4. It looks as though they're going to jack up the rear end of that car perhaps to make a couple of adjustments. After he's been sliding back just a little bit, has Savali since the drop of the green. So while we keep our eyes on a couple of the cars here on the main straightaway, including that of Savali and Zach Brewer, this is a good chance to tell you a little bit more about our friends at Jerry Hunt Super Center. And if you're looking for a premier North Carolina dealer with a huge selection of used and certified vehicles, then you need to check out Jerry Hunt Super Center. Visit them online at jerryhuntsupercenter.com or stop by their Greensboro dealership located in Lexington, North Carolina. That's Jerry Hunt Super Center. We buy more, we sell more, you save more. You see Daniel Prost on the pit lane as well, taking advantage of the caution, as is Dennis Holdren in the Clarence's Steakhouse and Hayes Jewelers number 07. And he'll have to wait for the field to come by, but Jimmy Wallace and John Smith also electing to stop here for service. You see Keevman exiting the pits as well, and they are still working on the Hillbilly Racing team. The car driven by James Savali over on the front straightaway on the far end, the turn 4 side of the pit lane, as well as Zach Brewer. First time today on the start-finish line, we are going to see the Citrus Safe Choose Cone. So drivers are going to be elect whether they want to start on the inside or the outside. We'll see what bit of strategy or trickery is able to be pulled off here by these competitors, as Ryan Preece is going to be the first to hit that zone on the main straightaway, and he will elect inside, while Jason Myers goes outside. So far, everybody pretty much slotting into position based on how they were running at the time of the caution. Have not seen anybody elect to start in the spot other than where they were currently running. Daniel Prost is going to be the first to join Daniel Yates on the bottom. Holdren will do the same. Keevman's going to pick up a couple of positions here by virtue of electing the outside lane. At the conclusion of this race here this afternoon, we got a little bit of time to catch our breath after the hot and heavy start to the Smart Modified Tour season. Our next race is going to be on July 3rd, so we tend to like holiday weekends with the Smart Modified Tour. We want to give you a little bit of extra reason to celebrate, so we will lead you into 4th of July at Caraway Speedway, July 3rd, and then we'll have another brief break before we're back in action at Dillon Motor Speedway, August 28th. 10 points races total. This is round number 3, and then we'll have a non-points event to wrap up the season, November 19th through 20th at Florence. For more information, check us out on the website at the Smart Modified Tour site, or visit us on our social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter as well. So here we come to the restart. Ryan Preece and Jason Myers on the front row, with Bertuccio and Labonte taking you back to the front 4 as we're back underway. Whoa, Jason Myers way up the racetrack. He may have a problem. Myers falls out of the top 5. He's able to get it back down to the second lane, but Bertuccio is going to move up to second. Not sure if Myers may have just overcooked the corner on the restart or got squeezed up high by Bertuccio, but he's going to fall back in line towards the bottom portion of the top 10 for now. Jason Myers able to stop the bleeding in 9th spot, while Tim Brown starts to try to close up. Meanwhile, further forward, Tom Buzzi almost got to the back of Frank Fleming, while the battle for second starts to intensify. Bobby Labonte wants to go. Labonte and Jeremy Gerstner have been tied together throughout the duration of the first 33 laps of this race, and they are now looking to try to continue their charge forward by getting around Bertuccio for the runner-up spot as they head to turn 1. Just behind them, Chuck Hosfeld, a quick time setter in qualifying. Burt Myers, who's been very strong. ...2021, looking to try to find victory lane for the first time. Tom Buzzi just behind, Frank Fleming 8th, and then you drop back to Myers in 9th, and Tim Brown your top 10, as Labonte has another look in 3 for the runner-up spot. Can't quite get there. Boy, Labonte's car looks solid. Burt Myers flirting with the outside. Now Tom Buzzi's going to try to fill the hole down low. Myers rockets his way through around the top of Chuck Hosfeld as they come down to the line, and Buzzi's going to follow. We've seen plenty of examples as to how quick Chuck Hosfeld has been here today. And the driver who is representing PSR Racing this afternoon, maybe, just maybe, biding his time and saving his stuff for the second half of this race. Battle for second continues to be the best on the racetrack, although just behind him, Tim Brown is trying to take over the 9th spot from Jason Myers, who went from second towards the bottom portion of the top 10. Very quick off the restart, and Brown is going to be able to take that spot away off 4. Meanwhile, second on back, Burt Myers has found something on the outside lane. Myers is digging on the outside in that Citrus Safe and Fury race cars number 1, but he may have overcooked it a bit off 4. He lost the spot to Tom Buzzi, who cracks the top 5. Boy, Burt was clearly trying to make that outside lane work, but unfortunately it was to no avail that time off 4. The lead for Ryan Preece, 0.6 of a second over J.R. Bertuccio, who has his hands full with a Corpus Christi, Texas driver in Bobby Labonte and Jeremy Gerstner out of Wesley Chapel, Florida. Tom Buzzi biding his time there. 5th car in line, car 5, currently running in the 5th position. Labonte trying to get the spot away as they exit 2. Tried to look inside, nothing there. Field's going to be coming up on the back of Brian Weber as they come out of 4. Preece going to go to the bottom, contact. That was dangerously close for the leader in Ryan Preece. Weber may have got late word that the leaders were on him. He tried to move down low, but Preece was already there. And now Weber sticks to the bottom to allow 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th a clear pathway to get by. Burt Myers now the next to try to get up and around. And he's gone through cleanly. Behind that group, you've got Chuck Hosfeld still holding down the 7th spot. Fleming 8th, Tim Brown 9th, and Chris Finocchiario in his first Smart Modify race of the season. Rounding out your top 10 for now. And not too long from now, your race leader in Ryan Preece is going to be in some very heavy lap traffic. Next car he's going to catch is going to be that of Jimmy Wallace, but ahead of that is a pack of cars, some of which are very quick. Oh, trouble! James Savali spins in turn 4. Caution flag is out. And Savali was running in that pack of lap cars that was in danger of being a factor for your race leader in Ryan Preece. And Savali ends up backwards to put us under the 2nd caution of the day. First one due to an incident. And the EME Industrial and Body Armor entry from Hillbilly Motorsports will get it righted. And the driver who originally hailed from Meridian, Connecticut will rejoin the field. And remember, he was one of the few that elected to come down and stop for adjustments, but it appears as though the handle on Savali's car is nowhere near what he was hoping for. Fortunately, the opportunity is going to present itself for them to come down and do a little bit more service, and judging by the activity that I see in the pit lane, the crew is preparing to do just that. So with the unique layout of this 4/10 of a mile racetrack here at South Boston Speedway, it is one continuous pit road. As a matter of fact, if you're familiar with the way in which Bristol Motor Speedway operates their pit lane, we're going to see these drivers enter off of turn number 2, and they will have to drive their way all the way down on the apron, pretty much at pit speed for the safety of everybody down there on the infield. And up onto the main straightaway, they will re-enter the racetrack at the entrance, the exit, I should say, of turn 1. And from my vantage point, it looks as though the pits are still closed, even though we did see Brandon Ward duck down to the pit lane, so he may have to restart at the tail end of the field once this caution has concluded. So Brian Weber is going to be able to benefit from the free pass due to the timing of the caution. He was the one and only car, one lap down, so he would drive around the pace truck, and we will see if the pits end up being open this time through, as we are working lap number 49 of 99 in this Smart Chevrolet 99 lapper presented by Realtree. And Ryan Preece has led since the drop of the green, with Bertuccio in second, Bobby Labonte third, Jeremy Gerstner fourth, and Tom Buzzy has had a pretty impressive run up through the pack to round out your top 5 in car 5. Burt Myers 6th, Chuck Hosfeld, the fastest car in qualifying, 7th, Frank Fleming in 8th, Tim Brown 9th, and Chris Finacciario rounds out your top 10. And pit road is going to be a busy place. Ryan Preece is going to lead down what looks to be everybody. Frank Fleming and Tim Brown are going to be a couple of the few exceptions, but here comes the majority of your top 10 and field down the pit lane for service. Let's see what these teams elect to do as far as tire strategy. Fortunately for us, we can see a lot of these cars, especially the front runners, pitting here on the main straightaway. Work being done here on the 6th, the TS Haulers entry of Ryan Preece. It looks as though they're going to slap a new right front tire on that car, so that may be the one and only change tire for that of Preece. They didn't take it off of any other part of the race car, while they are in fact switching around a little bit on the number 21 machine of J.R. Bertuccio. You see the Citra Safe and Fury race car number 1 of Burt Myers having some work done here. Looks as though they are also going to, looks like they moved the right front to the right rear and then slapped a new right front tire on that one car. And that is in fact a sticker right front tire on Burt Myers' car. So that appears to be the strategy that a lot of these drivers are deploying. Push the right front back to the right rear and then slap a sticker on that right front and try to give him hell for these final few laps here, as we've pretty much worked our way up to the halfway point. So this caution coming very timely for those who have elected to come down and put on their change tire. And we're also going to have some new names up at the front of the pack once all said and done. Brian Lofton exiting the pits, as is Jason Myers, Brian Weber, Chris Finacciario, who was rounding out your top 10 at the time, as well as the Mayberry Bullet and John Smith driving for Buddy Ellis in the AmeriFast Supply and R&W Siding entry. Now doing some work there on the left side of that car. Looks like they're going to swap left side tires on the Mayberry Bullets machine. So the 5-tire rule, in my opinion, is one of the best things about this series, and it's obviously a cost-saving measure. You don't want to force participants to come on in and buy north of 6 or 8 tires on a race weekend. The fact that they only got one fresh sticker, and it also allows them a chance to be a little bit creative and, you know, see what strategy may work best for them. And it's also a lot of work for the teams to try to keep up and make sure the air pressures are proper. And it's also going to mix up this field a little bit and spice things up for the second half of this race. Now, before we see our very own Chris Honeycutt place that Citra Safe choose cone on the main straightaway, we're going to get the field in the proper running order and formation. Let's take this chance to talk a little bit about our friends at Citra Safe. Now, Citra Safe is a non-toxic biodegradable grill cleaner, and it was founded back in 1997 under the name Bryson Cleaner. Well, in 2003, they rebranded it to the name that we all know and love today, Citra Safe. And you can find their products nationwide at stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, and Walmart, as well as many others. Be sure to check them out for all of your grill cleaning needs or on the web at citrasafe.com. That's Citra Safe, proud sponsor of the Smart Modified Tour Choose Cone. And as you can see, right on cue, It is awaiting on the front straightaway for Frank Fleming to be the first after electing to stay out and not come down for service here. Fleming is going to be one of the first cars to come down and elect where he may want to line up for this restart. And Fleming is going to pick the inside while Tim Brown goes outside. Zach Brewer, whose team was working diligently in the pits to try to get that car up to speed, is going to elect the bottom side, while Daniel Yates will pick up one position and move up outside of row number 2 and 4th. John Keevan's going to be in 5th position. Jeremy Gerstner, one of the first cars that got off the pit lane after coming down for service earlier, with Jimmy Wallace and Bobby Labonte, your top 8. And rounding out your top 10, the driver who led all the way up to this caution on lap 49, Ryan Preece, and the fastest driver in qualifying, New York native Chuck Hosfeld, your top 10. 1 to go signal is going to be given by our chief starter and J.B. Cole, and we are about to see how the rest of this race is going to pan out. So we basically put an egg beater to the running order. Differing tire strategies. You see a lot of competitors from about 9th on back with a fresh stickered right front tire, and they are going to want to work their way through to the front of the field quickly. Or will track position be key for the likes of Frank Fleming, who, remember, the last time the Smart Modified Tour Series, I'll credit Justin Mincy for this, 2001, Frank Fleming was in that race, as was a couple other drivers in this field. Fleming now going to lead us down for the restart. They hit the Fatheads restart zone. Fleming, Tim Brown, bring us back down to green. Brown and Fleming side by side for the lead as they... Oh, contact! Brown hard on the wall with Fleming, and Gerstner pounds the side of the car as well. Oh, my. Fleming, who was on the inside of Tim Brown, battling for the lead, looked as though he may have slipped up a little bit and caught Brown. And that was a very significant impact for both Fleming and Tim Brown in the turn 3 wall. Jeremy Gerstner gingerly rolling down the pit lane after he elected to come down and stop, lost some of the track position he worked so hard to maintain. He's got a flat right front tire. After he was collected in that incident as well, we're going to see if he was able to avoid any major suspension damage, but it looks as though that the right side nerf bars are dragging quite heavily on Gerstner's car and the other machine that arrived on the scene late. There was not much that they were able to do. It was Chris Finacciario. We see Frank Fleming was able to roll down, and our attention now obviously turns to the well-being of Tim Brown, who took an absolute shot into the wall. So that is going to stop the field down in turn number 1. And unofficially, we are showing Zach Brewer the leader, with the red flag now being displayed by our chief starter and J.B. Cole. And we await for word on the situation in turns 3 and 4, with the field now being stopped after the crash while these two were battling up front for the race lead. You see Frank Fleming's car going on the hook. Finacciario is going to try to roll away from the scene to clear the availability for the track crew to do their work here. And I want to mention, you know, we've kind of talked about all throughout our broadcast here on Speed 51 TV how this is an incredibly state-of-the-art facility here at South Boston Speedway, and that extends well beyond just track management. The track crew here, the medical team that works with this racing venue to put these drivers in safe hands, everybody who is involved in this speedway in some capacity, all does an amazing job at making sure that we have these shows running smoothly, quickly, promptly, and also to make sure that these drivers are very well taken care of. And when I say state-of-the-art, I mean it from top to bottom here at South Boston. It is an unbelievable team effort by everybody involved, and this is the way in which racetracks are meant to be run. South Boston obviously does it right. So, as you can see by the lineup in turn number 1, Zach Brewer and Daniel Yates unofficially are top 2, with John Keevan in 3rd. They will double-check the running order here with the Smart Modified Tour. They do, in fact, go back to the previous lap at the time of the caution, so there will be a couple of things for us to figure out here as far as the positioning of some of these cars, and we obviously didn't get a lap in. The restart happened on lap number 49. The wreck happened a half lap in, so we may or may not see a couple of drivers like to come down the pit lane if possible, but we will see how it all shakes out. Want to remind all of you who may be watching on Speed51.tv, we got our buddy Zach Evans here, and Zach put together a really, really good opinionated piece, and I'm not just saying that because it was positive, on the kind of the revitalization of the Smart Modified Tour. And the acronym, of course, stands for Southern Modified Auto Racing Teams. And Zach's article goes into great detail about just how much the cooperation these teams feel that they have. In fact, there was a great quote by James Savali. He cited the fact that there is incredible leadership with this organization, and they have the race teams and the drivers. And, of course, you know, as we all know, racing is incredibly expensive to partake in on a number of ways, and they found a lot of avenues to take to try to assure that this is done affordably to the point where it's fun, it's competitive, and so far, with this being our third race of the season, we've had two different winners. Matt Hirschman won the season opener at Caraway about a month ago. That was also on Speed 51 TV. In fact, you can go back and check out the on-demand footage of that race. And then at Florence Motor Speedway, young rookie Caleb Petty driving for Tommy Baldwin Racing, the 7NY, that famed 7NY in modified racing action. He was able to capture the flag and hold off Bobby Labonte for the lead and win at Florence Motor Speedway 2 weeks ago. And as we mentioned, due to other previous commitments, both drivers not in attendance here, so we're guaranteed to have our third different winner to start the season. And judging by the way in which strategy has kind of been blended together, we're pretty much kind of right on pace here to see another thrilling finish all the way to the end. So we are under the red flag here on lap number 49. Again, incident down in turn number 3 after Frank Fleming, Tim Brown, and a couple of other cars got together while racing for the lead. We did see Fleming roll away from the scene, and Chris Finocchiario just had nowhere to go after Brown's car came off the wall, but the safety crews are working over there with Tim Brown, and as soon as we get an update from that area of the racetrack, we will pass it along to you. So the red flag remains out for now. While we've still got a good bit of racing action left to go, I want to remind all of our viewers on the platform at Speed51.tv that there's even more racing that's going to be coming up a little bit later on today. And over at the Hickory Motor Speedway in Hickory, North Carolina, it's a 2-day event for the Easter Bunny 150, and they've had an incredible car count over there. The American Canadian Tour, they made the trek south. Usually they run up in the northeast quadrant of the country, as well as kind of splash their way into Canada when permitting, of course. But they've got 30 cars down there. They've got high count of 20 late models that are going to take part in that. Derek Griffith, in fact, captured one of the wins that was up for grabs last night. Our very own Alan Dietz is there, trackside, did an amazing job on the call of yesterday's racing action there. And they're slated to go live for their pay-per-view coverage at about 5:15 p.m. So if you're here, you're going to be heading home, perhaps maybe trying to flirt the idea of catching a little bit more racing. Obviously, you know, tomorrow's a holiday, so we don't get to have as much motorsports as we all would probably like on this weekend. But there's a chance for you to watch more incredible short track racing action on the platform. And again, that is slated to be kicking off at approximately 5:15 p.m. The pay-per-view coverage on the second and final day at the Hickory Motor Speedway, the Easter Bunny 150 on Speed51.com. So the red flag remains out as the crew continues to work over in turn number 3. Again, unofficially, Zach Brewer, Daniel Yates, John Keeveman, Bobby Labonte, Chuck Hosfeld, your top 5 as they run on the racetrack. And we will confirm that with timing and scoring once we start to get this race back under the yellow flag. But the red remains out here for the time being, with Keeveman, followed by Priest, Tom Buzzy, Burt Myers, Brian Lofton, J.R. Bertuccio, and Jimmy Wallace take you through your provisional front-running cars for the time being as they sit stationary over in turns 1 and 2. While we have a moment, let's extend a couple of more thank yous to some of the incredible partners that we have with the Smart Modified Tour for 2021. And we mentioned a number of contingency awards that are available for these drivers, and it goes to the highest running non-winning drivers. So in other words, if you win the race, you're not eligible for any of these contingency awards. It's kind of meant to spread the love throughout the field a little bit. And we've already touched on a couple of those that are up for grabs for fastest lap of the race, pole award, but we also have the Carolina Drilling Blast to the Front. Now, the Mayberry Bullet and John Smith has been very good at collecting these so far this season. Caraway was a thriller as he picked up 16 spots by the time they came to the checkered flag with his top 5 finish. And Carolina Drilling is actually a well drilling contractor that is located in Mocksville, North Carolina. They are a leader in both drilling and blasting in the region, and they're a proud sponsor of the Carolina Drilling Blast to the Front Award. Now, this award, as we mentioned, given to the highest finishing non-Smart Tour winner in the final rundown. And a special thanks goes out to Jason Tutterow and all the fine employees at Carolina Drilling for their continued support of modified racing. Another one that we wanted to mention, and Burt Myers was able to benefit from this leading into this race, it's the Cleanup Supply free tire draw. Now, since 1972, Cleanup Supply has been a family-owned and operated business with their offices currently located in Lexington, North Carolina. So if you're searching for only the highest quality cleaning and car care solutions from a quality supplier, look no further than Cleanup Supply. And their automotive detailing and cleaning products are available. Clean Up Supply, proud sponsor of the free tire draw with the Smart Modified Tour. Clean-upsupply.com to learn more. So the red flag remains out here on lap number 49 of the Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree here at the South Boston Speedway. Our third race of the 2021 season for the Smart Modified Tour. And as we saw earlier on Speed 51, after a quick restart, battling for the lead, Frank Fleming, Tim Brown got together. They ended up hard in the turn 3 walls. The red flag is out while we continue to wait for the cleanup to be completed before we can continue on with today's racing program. And as we mentioned, at the time of the caution and the way in which the running order was, Zach Brewer, Daniel Yates currently scored at least on the racetrack due to the fact that we did not necessarily complete a lap, but they are running 1 and 2 on the racetrack. And Zach Brewer is kind of watching his day unfold has been very interesting. Zach actually was on the pit lane for the first caution, which didn't come until the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage. He was on the pit lane, came down very early. Team was working diligently on that car in order to try to improve on the performance that he has, and he finds himself currently at the head of the field. Not exactly sure where that team may be as far as the tire strategy for today, but I had a chance to talk to Zach earlier and was actually up here hanging out with John Evans a little bit ago, who is, of course, the traditional announcer here at South Boston Speedway. And he was telling me stories about back when Zach, of course, was running and winning races and what was then the NASCAR Dash Series. And modify racing is something that Zach has been having a lot of fun with over the last few years. And that seems to be a common thread when you talk to anybody about these cars. Zach was just elated, even though that him and his team are pretty much doing this about the way that one may think one should. He doesn't come here with a stacker rig and stacker trailer. He's got a handful of friends who are with him trying to put this deal together and make things happen. And One of the things that caught my attention when I was young, or at least when I was much younger, he apparently loves to compete and honor the opportunity. He wears number 45 on his sleeve for the late Adam Petty, and he said they were close personal friends growing up, and he continues to carry on Adam's name and memory in his honor, and he wears that on the left-hand side of his fire suit, and Zach in car number 31 also riding with the number 45 in his machine, currently leading as of right now. And Daniel Yates, it was actually a member of his team earlier who was out firing those T-shirts into the grandstands. I think I speak on behalf of everybody when I say that we were all pretty impressed with how powerful that T-shirt gun, in fact, was. So for Yates and his organization, they're doing a great job. And Daniel's a stand-up character. He's somebody who is always around at Bowman Gray Stadium and has been traveling with this Smart Modified Tour and always has a smile on his face. And his team has been working very hard to get that car up towards the front. And then, of course, we got John Keevan, who we mention all the time. Jeremy Gerstner is out of Wesley Chapel, Florida. Well, John Keevan is somebody else who made the trip up from down south. He's actually from Deerfield Beach, Florida, in his Autobahn Performance entry, and he's somebody who we saw him down at the World Series of Asphalt at New Smyrna back when we kicked things off in February. He was with us at Caraway. We did not see him at Florence, but happy that John is here. Was working very hard as far as trying to get that car up to pace throughout the practice sessions. And speaking of having fun in these style of race cars, that's all you seem to hear when we mention the driver who is currently sitting fourth on the racetrack in Bobby Labonte. And we noticed that a lot of people in the grandstands here are wearing their colors and supporting Bobby's new racing effort. And ever since he stopped running in the big league stock car races, Bobby has kept himself very busy on the motorsports front. Remember, he went and ran what is the NASCAR Euro Series for a number of years, and he just towards the end of 2019 had the opportunity to climb into one of these race cars. He actually cited his relationship with one of the men behind this series, and Chris Williams is a big reason as to why he has had so much fun getting involved in this series. And he actually said in his second place interview at Florence last time out that his main goal would be, if they're able to put it all together, is go out and run more races than just the slate that we have for the Smart Modified Tour this season. As we know, there's a big Modified Tour event coming up in Martinsville, Virginia in less than a week's time, and a lot of people are happy to see the Modifieds back in action there. So for Bobby, he wants to kind of garner all assets possible in order to be able to come on out and keep running. So we'll see if we could see more of that cookout number 25 with Bobby. And Chuck Hosfeld, who, as we mentioned, ran with us at Caraway not that long ago. And he's, of course, a name who he competed here way back in the day, back when he was still running Truck Series races for what is now Roush Fenway. But the New York native has taken such a liking to modified racing action. He's always been very successful when it comes to competing in modified competition, and he has been so incredibly quick. As a matter of fact, he was fourth in our opener at Caraway. He has 7 NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour victories under his belt, and he is also a former ROC, or Race of Champions champion, the series that would run predominantly up in the northeast quadrant of the country. So for Chuck Hosfeld, who was our quick time setter, he won that award a little bit earlier on today. He captured the Precision Built Spindle Pole Award, and he is currently scored as the 5th car in line. And Ryan Preece is somebody whose modified racing resume goes a long way. 2013 NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour champion. 2014, he captured a victory at my home track. He won the Turkey Derby event in Tour Type Modifieds at Wall Stadium Speedway. And in 2015, he actually won the NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modified Tour race that was held here at South Boston. So this track is obviously a favorite for him when he competes in these style of cars. And that's why, considering how insane and compact the NASCAR Cup Series schedule may be, Ryan just could not miss the opportunity to come on out here. And I actually said to my wife earlier, who was joining me on the pit lane, that it is so surprising to see, because a lot of people may think that some of these drivers just come here to do one thing, and that's drive. And they had the car up on jack stands, and Ryan was the first one under there wrenching that thing and trying to get it go a little bit faster. And it's hard to judge sometimes or handicap the performance that we've seen in practice as to how it may pan out in the race, but he did qualify well up in towards the top 5 of the running order, and by virtue of the redraw inherited the pole position and was able to go on to win the Jerry Hunt Super Center stage over Jason Myers and J.R. Bertuccio. You mentioned, by virtue of that stage win, Preece and his team is going to be able to celebrate an additional $300. Jason Myers $200 for second, and J.R. Bertuccio. Priest joins the likes of Jeremy Gerstner, who caught some damage on the right front of his car. And you could actually see Gerstner, who's got, we'll call it the number one pit stall, because it's actually the first one prior to exiting the facility. Gerstner and his team kind of going over the damage there. We weren't sure if it was perhaps just a flat tire on the number 55 GMR Racing entry, and they appear to be working very hard there to see if they could, in fact, somehow get that car repaired in time to rejoin and restart this race. And Jeremy Gerstner is somebody else who was very open when I had the chance to talk to him back at Florence, South Carolina, and he kind of walked out of his trailer and came up to me with, open arms and just kind of talking about his success. And just my main question is why? Why go through all the trouble to drive from Florida as often as we do at the Smart Modified Tour and compete? And he says because he knows that these are the type of cars that he loves to drive, which is a common thread, and that these are the type of competitors that he loves to race with. And he also has an impressive resume of his own. We mentioned he was a two-time Southern Modified Series champion, and this year, with the support of Jerry Hunt Supercenter and Kevin Dunn Construction, as well as Unique Coatings, Jeremy's kind of, even though he's got a lot of team members with him, he's operating as his own crew chief this season with his GMR Racing operation. And you can check him out on social media. They have a website as well where they have T-shirts available. And he's a very interesting character, very passionate about the sport that he competes in motorsports. And he's typically very fast. And unfortunately, he was running up in the top 10 when he got taken out in the crash over in turns 3 and 4. So again, for those of you who may be tuning in on Speed51.tv, the red flag is out after a crash on lap number 49 that happened while Frank Fleming and Tim Brown were battling for the lead. Unfortunately, after the cars came off the wall, they collected Jeremy Gerstner, who was under repairs. Also, we see the 8 car of Chris Finacharo involved in there as well. Chris, somebody else who came way down south from New York to compete in this event here this afternoon. And Chris's car is yet to be removed from the scene, as we do see that Tim Brown's car has now been on the hook, and our best wishes go out to Tim after what was a scary incident in turn number 3 that has halted this race for the time being, with Zach Brewer unofficially up towards the head of the field. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to pass up an update that we have from the incident over in turn number 3, fresh from Chris Williams, who is spearing up this series. And the best news that we could hear is the fact that Tim Brown is, in fact, awake and alert after that very hard hit in turn number 3 that I think left all of us holding our collective breath. Now, he is going to be transported to a local hospital for further evaluation, but Tim obviously having a pretty hard shot there, and all the precautions were taken to make sure that he was, in fact, okay. And again, the best news that we have to pass along is the fact that Tim Brown, one of the 10-time Bowman Gray Stadium champions in the field, is, in fact, awake and alert, but will be transported to a local hospital for further evaluation. And as you can see, as they tow that car behind what is the victory lane here at the South Boston Speedway, a lot of damage to the right front of that car after he got into the wall while battling for the lead and got up towards the front of the pack with Frank Fleming by virtue of some of the pit strategy. He was going for the lead on the outside, and the two came together and pounded the wall hard up in turn 3. And as you can see, again, awake and alert, the best news that we've had here this afternoon after I think all of us were patiently awaiting on positive word, and fortunately we were able to pass some of that along to you. So best wishes go out to Tim Brown, and our thoughts are also with his family and race team, and hopefully we will see Tim back on July 3rd for our 4th race of the season at Caraway, a couple of months away from now. So once the scene is cleared over in turn number 3, they will refire the motors, get the cars back under the caution flag, and we will be able to get the lineup sorted out. Again, they revert back to the previous lap, but since we did not run a lap after the yellow flag, they're actually going to have to do double work and go back and see where everybody was running, and then, of course, remove the cars that were in the crash before they get this race back underway. So as the engines are refired and the field gets set to roll off, we're going to comb over the running order as we get set for what is essentially going to be the second half of the Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree. Third caution of the race, first red flag that we had of the event. And the good news is everybody is able to roll off cleanly on the main straightaway without the assistance of a push truck. And now it is up to the officials to assure that the lineup is in fact correct before we get back underway. I'll try to do my best here to kind of hit the refresh button and see where everybody stands on strategy. We do know that the first 3 cars that you see in your running order in Zach Brewer, Daniel Yates, and John Kievman did not stop for service, at least not on the caution that came out initially on lap 49. We did see Bobby Labonte, Chuck Hosfeld, and the race leader for the first 30-plus laps. In fact, up to this point, the only leader, since we have not gotten a green flag lap in of this event so far, Ryan Preece. Those 3 did stop for service, as did Tom Buzzy, Burt Myers, and pretty much the rest of the field. Now, the crash obviously took out Frank Fleming and Tim Brown. Also, Chris Finichario is on pit lane for service, trying to see if they can get that car back out there. And Jeremy Gerstner, who was collected as well, while running up in a top 10 position at the time of the crash in turn 3. "15 minutes past the top of the hour here on the East Coast. And we are approaching the second half of this race. A reminder for all of you who may be watching on Speed 51, we'll have more racing action coming your way with our pay-per-view broadcast, the Easter Bunny 150, where Alan Dietz will have all the information and action for you over at the Hickory Motor Speedway in Hickory, North Carolina. But first, we've got to settle this third race of 2021, where we are destined to have our third different winner, and a lot of different strategies litter the front 5. And we will soon see the Citrus Safe Choose Cone make its way up onto the main straightaway on the start-finish line, and we will see how, in fact, we will re-rack this field for this restart. And the word has been given from race control. Our very own Chris Honeycutt is going to place that Citrus Safe Choose Cone up on the main straightaway. The field will start to double up, and we are 2 laps away from getting back underway. It's a beautiful day here in South Boston, Virginia, for the third race of the Smart Modified Tour season in 2021. And we are just about halfway through this 99-lap affair for the Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree, and Zach Brewer is the leader. You see Brewer is going to elect the bottom side. Yates is going to follow. That's going to open the door for Bobby Labonte to go from 4th to 2nd on this restart. And he may have at least some of the freshest rubber after he came down for what was initially a lap number 49 pit stop. So it's going to be Zach Brewer, Bobby Labonte, your front row. Daniel Yates inside of row 2. Chuck Hosfeld outside in car 17 in 4th. John Keeveman elected the bottom. Ryan Preece, who led the opening 49 laps of this race, since we did not get a lap in after the restart, is going to restart in 6th spot. Tom Buzzy has been fun to watch fly up through the field in car 5. He'll start inside of row 4. And rounding out your top 8 is going to be Burt Myers in car 1. Check that, the 21 of J.R. Bertuccio is going to line up in 9th. Brian Lofton outside in 10th, followed by Jimmy Wallace, Jason Myers, who had a slip up the last time through on the restart, James Savali, who has gone around once so far here today, Daniel Prost, John Smith, Brandon Ward, Brian Weber, and joining the tail end of the pack is going to be that of Dennis Holdren, while Chris Finichario and Jeremy Gerstner unfortunately remain on the pit lane and most likely out of this race. So the field's going to approach the Fatheads restart zone. Zach Brewer and Bobby Labonte, two drivers with many years of NASCAR experience, leading us back down for the restart here. And we're back underway. Brewer got a great jump, but Labonte's looking low for the lead in 3. Brewer's going to slam the door. Here comes Hosfeld up top for 2nd. Look at him get back to the gas early as they come off 4 and slot his way in the 2nd spot. Chuck Hosfeld is hooked up on the outside lane, but Brewer slams the door shut out of 2. Brewer now trying to draw alongside. He's got the pass made as they come to the line. Chuck Hosfeld to the lead. Oh, and a crash on the front straightaway. Brandon Ward is in the wall. Caution is out after Brandon Ward in the Randy Renfro and Joey Coulter Motorsports entry number 2 with a clear flat on the right front. Slides gently into the inside retaining wall approaching turn 1. While we had our eyes on the battle for the lead, did not see what happened to Brandon Ward as they came by the start-finish line. Any time that you have a car get turned around sideways on the front or back straightaway at South Boston, it will stop your heart because of how narrow this front and back straightaway is. We mentioned 45 feet, the measured distance, all the way around on the 10 degrees of banking here on the front straightaway, 12 in the corners. And unfortunately, Brandon Ward has dropped the window net, and he feels that his day is going to come to a close here by virtue of the damage he sustained on the front stretch. We mentioned in qualifying, Brandon Ward, the driver out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, has the Darrell Gwynn Foundation on the back panel. They call it the TV panel on the stock car side of that car. So raising awareness to an absolutely incredible cause is that of Brandon Ward. And we mentioned this is a pretty much tag team effort between Randy Renfro and Coulter Motorsports. And if, for those of you who may be sitting down towards turn number 1, you can actually see Joey Coulter's name above the door. But Brandon Ward has been tagged to drive this car the last 2 races, and unfortunately his day is going to come to an end here on lap 51 as he climbs from the car. But the good news is he is in fact okay. Brandon Ward, who is somebody who has won many a times at a track they dubbed the Madhouse at Bowman Gray Stadium, and he's been very quick in any type of vehicle or any type of track that he's able to strap in and compete in. And we mentioned that car did go to victory lane in one of the 4 smart modified races that happened in 2020. That was, though, with Joey Coulter at the wheel. But Brandon Ward, if he is continuously given opportunities to compete in this series, especially in that car, he is somebody who is going to be knocking on the door to victory lane quite soon. But for now, his day appears over. So Ward is going to walk his way back towards his race team's hauler. The field is now back behind the pace truck on the back straightaway. And how about Chuck Hosfeld? We talked about this earlier, but prior to the running of this race, there was a 100-lap late model event. So the track was completely different as far as rubber texture and the way in which that these cars are going to be able to navigate what potentially could be a second lane on this racetrack. And Chuck Hosfeld, by virtue of pit strategy and just sheer sending it on the outside, has proven that outside lane can work. And he's got himself up into the lead, top of the pylon, a place in which he owned earlier in the afternoon after capturing the Precision-Built Spindle Pole Award earlier on in the afternoon. And Precision-Built Spindle also is a proud partner and sponsor of the Fastest Lap of the Race Award that is handed out each and every week. So not only do they give away some extra cash and pride for some of the drivers who set quick time in qualifying, but so far this season we've seen Jason Myers at Caraway, and last time out at Florence Motor Speedway, Bobby Labonte was able to take home that precision-built spindle quick time award in the race. And that came with just a handful of laps to go while he was trying to close up on Caleb Petty. Came up one spot short, but Labonte's looking very strong here this afternoon, currently running in 5th. So Brandon Ward's car is going to get towed back to the pit area. A little bit of cleanup, wrapping up here on the front straightaway. We should be seeing that Citrus Safe Choose cone next time through, with Chuck Hosfeld being the first one. Will have the opportunity to pick whether he wants the inside lane or the outside lane. So as they run, it's Hosfeld, Zach Brewer, Ryan Preece, your top 3. Burt Myers and Bobby Labonte, your top 5. But the order in which they restart may shuffle up here once they hit the Citrus Safe Choose cone that is now being put into position on the front stretch. Keep in mind, Zach Brewer on a bit of a different pit strategy, that second car in line. So some of the drivers behind him may elect to do something different if they're worried about Brewer getting up to pace on this upcoming restart. Hosfeld's going to take the outside. He's going to give the bottom lane to Zach Brewer in the 31. And Ryan Preece and Burt Myers have all elected to jump up in that outside lane with Hosfeld. That's going to give Bobby Labonte the inside of row 2, but he's going to have to be careful because Brewer may not be able to get up to pace as some of the drivers around him for this upcoming restart. Tom Buzzy in the 5 is going to fill the hole there inside row 3. Burt Myers will line up in 6th. Daniel Yates 7th. Brian Lofton 8th. Followed by J.R. Bertuccio and John Kievman, your top 10. One to go signal going to be given this time by our chief starter in J.B. Cole. Getting set for the restart. Chuck Hosfeld, outside front row, is your leader. Zach Brewer on the inside in car 31 is going to restart in 2nd, so he's going to have to wait on Hosfeld to get on the power as they approach the Fathead restart zone with Bobby Labonte and Ryan Preece taking you back to row 2. Into the Fatheads restart zone they come. Hosfeld quick to fire. We're back underway. And that outside line was ready to go. Hosfeld, clear. Preece, clear. Burt Myers trying to clear himself of Zach Brewer out of 4, and he's up to 3rd. Oh, Bertuccio muscles his way to the inside of Daniel Yates to take a spot away in turn 1. Now Brian Lofton and Bobby Labonte battle side by side for what would be 5th as they come back up on the main straightaway. And Tom Bussey's looking for an avenue to get by as well, while Zach Brewer has come to rest in 4th spot for the time being. Hosfeld out in front of the field. Preece 2nd, Myers, Burt Myers that is 3rd. Here's Brian Lofton down low on Zach Brewer, and they nearly touch. Lofton had a peek inside entering turn number 1, but he almost caught the rear Nerf bar as Zach Brewer had to duck back in line. Lofton going to try it again. Got a good drive out of 2 inside of Brewer. That's going to kick Brewer up top, and he may plummet out of the top 5. Bobby Labonte next in line to try to get by, while Tom Buzzy's going to try to follow him through. J.R. Bertuccio, who has already made some impressive moves in the Gershow Motorsports number 21. That white car trying to follow Buzzy through as they almost touch out of 4. And there's contact, and now Bertuccio spins in turn 1. Jason Myers went way high to avoid the incident, and he almost got into the outside retaining wall. But J.R. Bertuccio, who was looking inside of Zach Brewer in turn 1, his right front made contact with Brewer's left rear. And it was Bertuccio who paid the price and went for the loop in the middle of turns 1 and 2 to draw the caution yet again. Been a bit of caution fever here since we had our second yellow on lap number 49. That one coming after an incident involving James Savali, who has battled his way back up into the top 10. Then we had the crash with Frank Fleming, Tim Brown, Jeremy Gerstner, and Chris Finacciario in turn 3. Logged a few laps before Brandon Ward slapped the inside wall in the front straightaway, and now J.R. Bertuccio is the next victim of the South Boston Speedway in this race, but fortunately he does not appear to have sustained much damage on that Gershow recycling number 21. Going to try to assume himself a position here towards the tail end of the pack and try to charge his way back up through the field. As a matter of fact, as the pits are now open, Zach Brewer, along with J.R. Bertuccio, John Smith, and Jimmy Wallace are going to stop for service under this caution on lap 57. So while Zach Brewer is one of the first cars to stop, here comes Bertuccio into the pit area. Looks as though Brewer is going to be putting on a different tire on the right rear. Gonna have to wait to confirm if that is in fact a brand new tire going on Brewer's car. And most of the front runners appear to elect to go with the strategy of moving the right front tire to the back of the car and then slapping on a new sticker right front tire on their machine to try to go to battle for the remainder of this event. So we'll wait to see as Brewer drives off. That is in fact a new sticker right rear tire for Zach Brewer, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But we're restarting towards the tail end of the pack, and J.R. Bertuccio does not appear to have new rubber going on at the back end of that car. They want to check that car over after the spin in turn 1. Work continuing on John Smith's car in the pit area as well. And again, Jeremy Gerstner remains on the pit lane, but that was after the big crash that happened in turn number 3. After a couple of the front runners got together. Citrus Safe Choose Cone was out, and picking the inside lane this time was that of Chuck Hosfeld. Ryan Priest going to restart outside in second position. Brian Lofton third, Burt Myers fourth, Bobby Labonte in fifth, Tom Buzzi outside row 3 and 6. Jason Myers trying to work his way back up towards the front of the pack. Remember, he was second at the end of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage back on lap 30. Got kicked out of the top 10 after a restart misfortune. He's now worked his way up to the inside of row 4 for this restart. And James Savali, he was backwards in turn 4 just a handful of laps ago. He's now 8th, while Daniel Yates and John Keevan round out your top 10. Two of the fastest cars here make up the front row for this restart. Chuck Hosfeld on the bottom, Ryan Priest on the outside. Priest, who has had an incredible stretch as far as modified racing, won the Islip 300 at Riverhead, won the John Blue at the Third Memorial at New Smyrna, now looking for a smart modified tour win, but he's got to get around the quick time setter to get the job done. Here they come to the Fathead restart zone. And Ryan Priest has the edge out of turn number 2, and he's got the lead in 3. Burt Myers follows. Boy, the outside line has worked today. Ryan Priest to the point. Priest to the lead. Burt Myers second. Chuck Hosfeld back to third. Tom Buzzi up in the fourth, while Savali holds fifth. Savali doing all he can to hold on to that fifth spot, but Brian Lofton got him up off the bottom. They're side by side in 3. Top 4 in a league of their own. Labonte next, trying to get up and around Savali, who slips out of turn number 2, does the 79, and Labonte's got the spot. Priest running the middle of the racetrack in the corners, while Burt Myers looks high, now looks low. Chuck Hosfeld wants to get back up to P1, and Tom Buzzi's charge through the field has been incredibly impressive. Buzzi was one of the fastest cars on track in practice earlier today, and he now freight trains the front 4 as they've broken away for the rest of the pack. And that front four, maybe a front six, because Brian Lofton and Bobby Labonte are closing quickly in 5th and 6th positions respectively, with Priest still leading. Laps are starting to wind down. The smart Chevrolet. Oh, trouble, turn one. John Keeveman up into the wall in the first corner after contact with Zach Brewer and Daniel Yates. Caution is out yet again. Had a brief look at that. Looked as though Keeveman was on the outside approaching turn one. He was trying to make a move on Daniel Yates and Zach Brewer, who are kind of in a bit of a tandem on the inside, and I believe there was some slight contact from the right front of Zach Brewer's car to the left rear of Keeveman. He ping-ponged off the right side of Daniel Yates and fortunately got the car locked down before making significant contact with the outside retaining wall in turn one, and he's going to be able to drive that thing back to the pits for service. Hopefully not too much damage on the right front, and perhaps he can continue on in this race. So Ryan Preece has been able to prove that there is an outside lane here today at South Boston. He got an incredible restart, and Burt Myers followed him through from the outside of row 2. They currently run 1st and 2nd respectively, with Chuck Hosfeld holding down 3rd, and Tom Buzzi in car 5 takes you through your front 4. Now, prior to the yellow, those 4 were pretty much in a league of their own, while Brian Lofton and Bobby Labonte were trying to close. But this is going to re-rack the field here and give everybody a chance, as we are starting to inch closer to what would be the final 35 laps of the smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree. And unfortunately for John Keeveman, he's taken that car back to his trailer. It looks as though that the long drive home back to Florida is going to begin a little bit sooner than Keeveman may have been hoping for. The driver, again, who comes out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, in his second Smart Modified Tour race of 2021. His race is going to end with about 35 to go. And being that the track is clear, we're going to see the Citrus Safe Choose Cone come on out to the front straightaway. Chris Honeycutt will drop it into position. And I'm very interested here to see what Ryan Preece elects to do in the P1 spot. He has shown the ability to be able to rock it out far enough out in front in that top lane, especially as they approach the Fatheads restart zone, which is right here. He may elect to keep that car up on the top side of the racetrack, and as they approach that Citrus Safe Choose Cone, he does. Burt Myers wants a shot on the bottom. Hosfeld's going to follow Priest this time outside of row 2, while Tom Buzzi will move up into what will be 3rd in the restart running order. Bobby Labonte will pick the bottom lane. He will move to 5th. Brian Lofton 6, Jason Myers inside of row 4 and 7, James Savali 8, Daniel Yates and J.R. Bertuccio trying to battle back from the spin. Rounding out your top 10, as we will see the one-to-go signal this time. You know, when talking about Bobby Labonte, had a chance back at Florence to catch up with his spotter and Brent Wentz. And Brent is somebody who has been involved in motorsports in many capacities. As a matter of fact, he was on Takuma Sato's Indy 500 winning team last August for the delayed running of the Indianapolis 500. Hopes to be back with them as well. But he said that working with Bobby Labonte and this team is something that has been a true dream come true for him. And he is on the call for Bobby. He's very trustworthy. Bobby loves working with him. And they're going to see if they can navigate their way from 5th on the racetrack with this restart with about 35 to go, perhaps up to race-winning contention. Ryan Preece outside, the leader. Burt Myers inside 2nd. To the Fatheads restart zone they come. 35 to go from South Boston. Preece got a great jump up top. Here comes Chuck Hosfeld trying to follow through. Outside of Myers in 3 for the runner-up position. Boy, Myers sent it in there, and they almost touched tires out of 4. Rubbing Nerf bars for 2nd spot, while Savali got kicked up top and lost a couple of positions, and Hosfeld is up to 2nd. Oh, Brian Lofton in the Bobby Labonte and around. Labonte with major damage to the right front suspension of that car after Brian Lofton spun across the bow of the 2000 Cup champion. And Labonte immediately dives that car for the pit lane And after running in the top 5, you see the crew looking at how badly askew that right front tire is, and the driver who finished second at Florence Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, it does not look too promising for him to continue out the rest of this race, and the same can be said for that of the Shady Gray Racing number 15 of Brian Lofton, as that car has come to a stop in turn 4 after he suffered significant left front damage on his number 15. At the time, Brian Lofton was running in the 5th spot. I'm not sure if he had help. Did not get a good look at it from my vantage point, but that car went for a very long slide all the way through turn number 3 and into 4 before it finally started to come around on him. And as he had it pointed towards the infield opening, as the concrete retaining wall comes to an end there in turn 3 to kind of separate the front and back stretch pit lanes here at South Boston, he drove right into the path of Bobby Labonte, and as you can see down in turn number 1, Bobby is already out of the car, and the opportunity to grab his first Smart Tour modified victory here at South Boston has been pulled out from under him here. And for Brian Lofton as well, you know, he's somebody who finished 3rd at Florence last time out. Mentioned 2-time Smart Tour modified winner of the 4 races that were turned in 2020. And he's just had a little bit of a hard time getting the results to match the expectations of not only that race team, but him. He puts himself under a lot of pressure. It was evident in his 3rd place interview that we had with him at Florence last time out on Speed 51 TV. And he knows that that car and the driver himself is very capable of running up front and winning races. And unfortunately today, it is going to end on the back of the tow truck, as the field has to come to a stop here in turn 3 to allow the hardworking track crew here at South Boston an opportunity to get that car on the hook and back to the Shady Gray Racing team hauler. So while things have been paused on the racetrack, I am thrilled with the fact that the outside lane appears to be pretty much the go-to spot for some of the quick-running cars in these upcoming restarts. Ryan Preece was able to launch out to the lead the last time through. He's going to be coming up on the Citrus Safe Choose Cone once again once the scene is cleared down in turn number 4, and we'll see if he elects to do that yet again. But we've also seen drivers be able to take advantage of the outside of row 2 to move up in the 2nd spot. Burt Myers did it on the restart that took place before the last one, and Chuck Hosfeld just did the same exact thing to Myers as they came out of turn number 4 one lap after this most recent restart. So the Citrus Safe Choose Cone is playing a huge role in how the running order is formed here at South Boston. And we're about to see it in play here in perhaps 1 or 2 more laps behind the pace truck. While we await for that Citrus Safe Choose Cone to be rolled out on the main straightaway, let's do a quick reset for those of you who may be watching on Speed 51 TV. First off, hello and welcome from South Boston, Virginia. I'm Eric Brennan. Absolute pleasure to be with you this afternoon and all season long with the Smart Modified Tour. We are here today for the Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree. We've got 65 laps on the board, and this race has been absolutely crazy. It started off with a 30 consecutive green flag run to the end of the Jerry Hunt Supercenter stage, where we saw Ryan Preece, by virtue of the redraw after qualifying, lead every lap en route to that stage victory. But since then, it's been wild. We've seen differing pit strategies by a number of drivers. We had a restart after a spin that took place with James Savali on lap number 49. That put Frank Fleming and Tim Brown on the front row. We went about a half a lap before those two got together. They made significant contact with the outside retaining wall in turn number 3. We passed along word that all drivers were, for the most part, okay, with Tim Brown being sent off for a quick checkup at a local hospital for further evaluation. That crash, though, took out Brown, Fleming. Also, it took out the number 55 of Jeremy Gerstner, and it took out one of the New York competitors who took the trip south, and Chris Finacciario. That 4-car wreck put us under the one and only red flag we've had so far here today. But since then, we've seen Brandon Ward have problems on the front straightaway. We've seen the number 48 of John Keeveman get involved in an incident in turns 1 and 2. We've also had an incident that just put us under this most recent caution between Brian Lofton and Bobby Labonte. It's been yellow fever since lap 49 up till now, and we still have a good bit of racing left to go in the final third of this race. As you can see, by virtue of the Citrus Safe Choose Cone, race leader Ryan Preece has elected the outside lane. Chuck Hosfeld has followed him. He's going to relinquish second spot, or at least the front row position, to start outside of row 2, while Burt Myers is going to take advantage and fill up the bottom as we get set for this restart. Tom Buzzy's been very quick in car 5. He's currently in the inside of row number 2. And Jason Myers currently rounds out your top 5 as we get the 1-to-go signal from J.B. Cole. Lights are out atop the smart Chevrolet Pace truck. Ryan Preece, the leader, electing the outside. Burt Myers trying to fill the hole on the inside. Myers, the highest running driver in Smart Modified Tour points coming into this weekend. Caleb Petty was the points leader. He's not here this weekend. Myers has a lot to gain if he could find his way around and take home top honors as they hit the Fatheads restart zone. We're set to get back underway from South Boston. And Preece does it again from the top. He's got the lead in 3. Myers, though, going to slot into second, holding a tighter line on the exit of 4, while Hosfeld rides third. Top 3, pretty much single file. Here comes James Silvali in 5th, trying to get up and around J.R. Bertuccio. 4th and 5th place, respectively, both trying to rebound from some incidents. But Tom Buzzy, since electing to start on the inside lane, he's worked his way up to that outside lane. Going to drive his way around Silvali to get back up into the top 5. Hosfeld having a look on Burt Myers off a 2 for second. He'll drop back in line. Boy, Myers washing way up the racetrack as they come through the middle of the corner. Myers running about a full lane higher, and Hosfeld nearly got the right front inside. Myers looking to keep that door shut for as long as he can. Meanwhile, Preece is starting to open up the margin up at the head of the pack. Hosfeld with another run here out of 2. While Tom Buzzy is on the charge yet again, he appears to like the long green flag runs. That's what allows him to climb his way up the running order. And he's working on Bertuccio for the 4th spot in 1. Boy, Hosfeld knows he's got to go. The margin from Preece back to the second place runner in Burt Myers. Last time through was 0.3 of a second. Hosfeld appears to have a race car that can go up there and contest for this victory, but he has not been able to get up and around just yet. Preece on the main straightaway leads in the 1. Last time around, Burt Myers and Chuck Hosfeld turned their fastest lap of the race thus far. The gap to the leader is closing. Coming up on the backside of Brian Weber as Preece gets a run out of 2. Weber gives way. Myers is through the lap car. Jeremy Gerstner's gotten that car repaired. He now rolls slowly on the bottom. Less than 25 laps to go in this race. And we have a NASCAR Cup Series veteran and modified ace in Ryan Preece leading the field ahead of a 10-time Bowman Gray Stadium champion and one of the most dominant names in modified racing in this quadrant of the country, and Chuck Hosfeld, whose racing resume includes years of modified success, battling it out for the lead and win. Preece gets a good drive off the corner. Got a little bit squirrely that time as he got back to the power. And last time around, Chuck Hosfeld was the fastest car on the racetrack in 3rd. Hosfeld trying to put himself on a late apex exit off the corner. while Burt Myers is working the back bumper of Ryan Preece as we got a caution. James Savali, for the second time today, has spun in turn 4. Boy, the top three looked as though they were going to put themselves in position to settle this amongst themselves. And a spin by Savali in turn 4 and a flat left rear, check that, flat right rear tire for Savali is going to slow this field yet again with about 20 laps to go. So Ryan Preece still out in front of the field. Burt Myers second. Chuck Hosfeld, who just before the yellow had the fastest car on the racetrack of the front three, in fact set the quick lap of the race so far, runs third. J.R. Bertuccio in fourth. He just came back from a spin down in turn number 1 a handful of laps ago to round out that front four. And Tom Buzzi, who has been running very strong all day long, currently rounds out your top 5. While the Hillbilly Racing team is given some ample time to make some repairs and perhaps put an emergency tire, if available, on the backside of James Savali's car, we will soon see the Citrus Safe Choose cone rolled out onto the front stretch, and that time is now. So the last handful of restarts, Ryan Preece is elected the top side of the racetrack. Burt Myers has followed him up there, but we've seen it kind of be hit or miss, whether you want to be inside of row 1 or outside row 2 for you to come out with a shot. At second place in the running order, 1 lap after the restart. Let's see how the field goes about the Citrus Safe Choose cone this time through, with Preece picking the outside. Burt Myers wants the bottom, and Hosfeld's going to pick outside. Bertuccio going to line up inside of row 2. While Tom Buzzi also appears tired of restarting on the bottom lane. That's cost him a couple of spots the last few restarts. And Dennis Holdren is going to drive up into a top 5 spot. How about that? Holdren in the Mike Dowdy own number 07 has had a very quiet but successful day. And currently rounds out the top 5 here as we will come to the 1 to go signal. While chief starter J.B. Cole gives the 1 to go warning to the field. We're getting set for a 20-lap short track style shootout on one of the most warm and welcome short tracks in the country, properly nicknamed America's hometown track. And as you could tell from some of our pictures on Speed 51 TV, the crowd here is phenomenal, not only in the grandstands, but the tailgate parking as well. And they are in for what is going to be a thrilling finish with Ryan Preece outside, Burt Myers inside your front row as they hit the Fatheads restart zone, about to settle the Smart Chevrolet 99 here at South Boston, and we're back underway. Preece makes the outside lane work yet again, while Burt Myers is trying to work the bottom side for second spot, with Hosfeld rim riding up the top, squeezes almost up into the wall to try to get second back. Hosfeld with the outside launch off of turn 2 is up to second spot and hunting the lead. Boy, Ryan Preece appears struggling a bit there as he gets back to the gas in the middle of the corner. Hosfeld closes up to the back Nerf bar, while there is smoke rolling out of James Savali, 79 at the back of the pack. He's got a right rear tire rub. We'll see if that car makes it all the way to the finish. Top three in lockstep formation yet again. Priest, Hosfeld, Burt Myers, and then a gap back to the battle for fourth that sees Tom Buzzi looking low on J.R. Bertuccio, with Dennis Holdren trying to crack the top five. Bertuccio trying to fend off Holdren, who's had an incredible run, his best run of the season so far. For the hometown driver, trying to see if he's got a shot at a podium, working the top lane out of four. Big slide by Bertuccio there out of turn number two. Holdren's trying to work the top side. Holdren nearly up into the fence that time as he came out of four, but he kept his foot in it and is about to move up into fourth place. The Roanoke, Virginia driver giving his home crowd something to cheer about. He's up to fourth. Ryan Priest, Chuck Hosfeld, Burt Myers, your top three. Jason Myers cracking the top five behind, while Tom Buzzi and J.R. Bertuccio battle for sixth place in the running order. Flat traffic about to be a bit of a factor. They're coming up on the back of Brian Weber while they're going to see 10 laps to go. Priest works the high side of Weber, and Hosfeld follows. Burt Myers has fallen back just a little bit here. Ryan Priest, the driver who led the opening 30 laps of this race, trying to add to an already impressive modified racing resume. And behind him, another driver, very accomplished in modified competition. We told you earlier, Chuck Hosfeld, 7 NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour wins. He was the fastest car in qualifying. But now he's got to work hard to try to find a way around the Cup Series driver and Priest. Caution. Caution on the racetrack, and the great run for Tom Buzzi has come to an end in turns 3 and 4. What a heartbreaker. Tom Buzzi, who was up and around the top 5 all day long, has found the wall in 3 and 4, and it is going to slow this field within the final 10 laps of this race. And just when you thought the top 3 were pretty much in a league of their own, we're going to pull the whole field back together again for what is going to be an absolute scramble to the finish. But you got to think about Tom Buzzi. What a run he was having. Did not see him at Florence Motor Speedway for the second race of the season. The driver, who is part of a generational racing family, owns and operates their own automotive center. And the Buzzi Racing number 5, the driver out of Statesville, North Carolina, is going to have his race come to a close just 7 laps shy of the checkers. Under this caution, J.R. Bertuccio, who is running well up in the top 10, going to elect to forego his running position to come down for service. James Savali, Daniel Yates also coming in. Yates pitting on the back straightaway. Savali, who's pretty much battled back from adversity all day long, and it was a major right rear tire rub on that car. Remember, the last time that car spun to draw the yellow, it was due to a flat right rear tire, so one would assume that that fender rub is perhaps causing that issue, and they're going to look over that car. And it's a good opportunity to remind all of you who may be watching that these drivers are only given and offered up one change tire. So that means that they only have one new sticker tire. They can, however, reuse the tire they take off if, in fact, they need to. and they also have an emergency left side tire that they could bank on in the event that they were to have some misfortunes and problems. But all in a cost-saving measure to try to pump some life into this series and get it back to the prominence that it was in the early and mid-2000s. And as we mentioned earlier, and I'll credit Justin Mincy, who does a lot of pre-race write-ups for the Smart Modified Tour, actually passes along a number of incredible and unique stats. The last Smart Modified Tour event at South Boston Speedway. Now, granted, there were races here under what was then the NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modified Tour, so we're excluding those. But the last Smart Modified Tour race at South Boston Speedway was back in 2001. It was then the Bailey's 150. It was held on November 10th, so that's almost 20 years ago that the Smart Modified Tour has been here at South Boston. And one of the drivers who is in the field and contending for a win, and he may not like the fact that I'm about to pass this information along to you, Burt Myers, who runs third, was in that race, along with Frank Fleming, who was taken out in a crash earlier. But that is how long that this driver, specifically that of Burt Myers, has been competing for wins. As a matter of fact, when they came to the checkered flag in that race, Burt Myers came home fifth, trying to better that by 4 spots here. He's only got a handful of laps to get the job done. While Tom Buzzy's car gets towed back to the pit area with significant right front damage on that car number 5 after running in a top 5 position pretty much all throughout the race and elected to restart on the high side the last time through and had a problem there in turn number 3 and found the wall hard. That has slowed the pace of this field here with under 10 laps to go. Well, we've been highlighting how important the Citrus Safe Choose Cone has been all day long, and we're about to see it for what could be the final time. For the last number of restarts, Ryan Preece, the leader, has elected the outside lane. Chuck Hosfeld is going to have a chance to decide whether he wants to start up alongside of Preece for this restart or if he wants to be on the back Nerf bar, and what will Burt Myers do from third. The Citrus Safe Choose Cone is on the main straightaway. Let's see how these drivers elect to set up their starting position. And Hosfeld wants a shot on the bottom. Well, whether you're with us here at the South Boston Speedway on what has turned into a beautiful Saturday afternoon at the racetrack, or if you're watching at home on Speed 51 TV, we are in for a real treat. A shootout between a modern-day NASCAR Cup Series driver and standout in modified competition over the last decade plus, alongside of a name that is synonymous with that of modified competition. Former Race of Champions champion is that of Chuck Hosfeld. While Burt Myers, as we mentioned, finished top 5 the last time that this particular tour with this particular branding was here at this racetrack, elected the outside lane, and Dennis Holdren trying to pick up a home track victory at America's home track. He'll be lining up that 07 inside of row number 2 in third. The Smart Chevrolet Pace truck accelerates away from the field. We're about to come into the Fatheads restart zone for what we hope to be the final time. Ryan Preece, Chuck Hosfeld, your top 2 as we get set to settle it from South Boston. Preece got the edge on the outside yet again, and Myers is able to propel himself up to third. Preece to the line, back out in front. Hosfeld second, Myers third, Holdren fourth. Jason Myers trying to get up into the top 4, while Savali continues to billow smoke out behind the right rear. And this time, Hosfeld is not able to keep pace with Preece. 5 laps to go. Myers now working the top side as they come out at 2 on Hosfeld. Burt Myers trying to rib ride his way around the outside of Hosfeld. He leaves the door cracked just enough for Myers to still keep the car up out there. But he slips off too, and Hosfeld holds second. Preece with about the biggest lead we've seen him have since the start of this race. Ahead of Hosfeld, ahead of Myers, ahead of Holdren, ahead of Jason Myers, your top 5. 2 laps to go. While the battles continue throughout the pack, Ryan Preece is coming out of turn number 4, and he is 4/10 of a mile away from a Smart Modified Tour win. White flag for Ryan Preece. On a day in which it was supposed to be an off weekend for the Cup Series driver, he got the band back together and came south to South Boston, and Ryan Preece is a Smart Modified Tour winner. Ryan Preece wins the Smart Chevrolet 99 presented by Realtree. Chuck Hosfeld second, Burt Myers third, Dennis Holdren with a strong fourth, and Jason Myers your top 5. What an effort for Ryan Preece. On a weekend where most of the Cup Series stars are home celebrating with their families, Ryan Preece elected to come to America's hometown track and put on a show for you fans and grab himself a Smart Modified win. What a job. What a job by Ryan Preece. An incredible effort and victory for this driver. He was quick to get out of the car and celebrate. And it's all good. So, Ryan, this is normally an off week for you guys. However, you got with this team that you've had so much success. Islip 300 back in November, the John Blewett Memorial back in February, and now the Smart Modified Tour victory on what was supposed to be a weekend away with family. But this is your family, right? How good does it feel to get a win on the Smart Modified Tour?
Feels pretty good. Wish my wife could be here. Then it really would all be the family, you know, obviously. But just a really great race car. We worked on it in practice. We didn't unload quite as well as we thought we would, and just kept working on it. And eventually we got it to where it was really, really good. Really happy with the forward drive. Have a new crew guy, Steven Kopchik, who's turning the wrenches for us, and obviously my father's help and all our guys. So I got to thank Eddie and Connie Partridge for this Riverhead Raceway number 6NY Falmouth Ready Mix, Morton Buildings, Hunt Brothers Pizza, KHI, Hypercoil Springs, FK Rod Ends, Fergola Performance Systems, Racing Electronics. We got a lot of product sponsors, so you know, we wouldn't be here without them.
Well, I got to say, one person I think you left out was you. I was walking through the pit area in practice. You were underneath this car as much as anybody. What is it about these cars that you not only love racing but working on?
I know what I feel, so I've just been fortunate enough to have a lot of experience and learn what works and what doesn't work. I couldn't tell you why, but that's what I got these guys right here for. It was cool having my Cup Series crew chief here, Trent Owens. So it was cool to get both of us to victory lane here.
Well, happy that you were able to enjoy this off week and a win. Once again, your winner today for the Smart Modified Tour, Smart Chevrolet 99, presented by Realtree, Ryan Preece. right, we're going to run our way over here and catch up with some of our other front-running finishers, including the driver who was able to capture the quick time in qualifying. Still spending some time in the cockpit of the race car. We're going to wait for Chuck to climb on out here. And as we mentioned, a name that we normally tie to modified racing. Anywhere that he goes, he's a threat to win. He won the Precision-Built Spindle Quick Time Award and gave it everything he had at the end. And here comes our runner-up today in Chuck Hosfeld. And Chuck, I'll tell you what, man, at least for us, it sounded like this was a late move. There was originally another driver that was announced, the driver of this machine, but you were in this ride at Caraway. You come here to South Boston, set quick time. The redraw sets you back, but a runner-up finish. Are you proud of that effort here today, or do you guys want more?
Well, of course we want more. We want to win, but I'm proud of everybody involved. Phil and his wife Jen and Neil. My friend Dave came from New York. Just made this a fun weekend. We had practice yesterday and did a really great job in practice. And then we just had not a bad tire, but a bounce in our left front all race, and it really cost us. I'm glad we could run with Ryan. I think we put a good show on, but I can't tell you how great this PSR car is.
Now, the outside lane appeared very, very strong there at the end. You elected to take the outside on the last restart. Did you think that was the way to go? If you could do it all over again, would you think about trying the bottom for one last shot?
Well, on the last restart, I actually took the bottom and hope to get a really good restart and get next to Ryan. And I spun my tires just a little bit, enough that he got ahead. And here's the thing. He's a Cup driver and an excellent modified driver. This is the second time we've been together as a team here with the 17, so I'm proud of what we just accomplished in these last two races that we ran.
Well, Chuck, we love seeing your name on the entry list because we know you're going to make it fun. You're runner-up here today at Chuck Hosfeld.
And thank you. I appreciate that, and I really like this series and a great track to come to with nice warm weather instead of what we have at home, so thank you.
I agree with you there. Chuck Hosfeld, once again, ladies and gentlemen, your runner-up here today. And now we're going to work our way on over here and catch up with Burt Myers. And Burt, we mentioned this stat earlier. I hope you don't hate me for it. But the last Smart Modified Tour event held here under this series name and banner was 2001. You finished top 5 in that race. Got a top 3 here today. You appeared to have pace with the two ahead of you. What did you need there to just get a little bit more?
Track position. We were all three about the same, but we were better in different spots. But we run so fast here with so much grip, it's just hard to find a lane that the guy in front of you is not in. The outside groove is where you need to be, so restarts played hectic, me into 17, switching back and forth. But for everything we went through, blowing a motor yesterday before we even got on the racetrack and changing it, coming today and having a car to contend, that's all you can ask for is be there. But these guys don't quit, and I'm still looking for that elusive win at South Boston, man. I still don't have one, but hopefully with the show we put on today, hopefully these fans were happy with what they saw in the management, because I'd love to come back.
Now, we know that you have collected a lot of championships at Bowman Gray Stadium. My math's not the best, but with 7 races to go in the championship, you should have the points lead by virtue of this season. Is that something you're chasing, or you just want checkered flags and trophies?
If you get checkered flags and trophies, the championship comes. But, you look at it. But, I want to win. I'm here to win, and these guys that come and follow me and do it for basically the price of a pit pass, people like Tommy at Citrus Safe that put in the effort. I got to thank Jason Tutterow. He let us borrow this engine for today. All the people that do what they do to help me have fun on the weekend, you know what I mean? So hats off to them, and we will be back, I promise.
Well, thanks for putting on a show for us. Once again, your third place finisher, second podium of the season, Burt Myers. Well, that will do it for us here on Speed51.tv. A reminder, you can catch the pay-per-view running of the Easter Bunny 150 on the platform on behalf of everybody at Speed 51 and the Smart Modified Tour. I'm Eric Brennan. We'll see you July 3rd at Caraway. We'll throw it back upstairs.
Thank you. We got little more racing left to go. Little, I do mean, the Hornets for Budweiser. The Budweiser Hornet division getting ready to roll off.